Welcome to Extraterrestrial Reality. Today I'm going to make some allusions to Santa Claus. And so I just want to throw out a little warning if you're listening to this with some people that might be affected by discussion of Santa Claus. You may want to not listen to it right now. Here I'll just play a little bit of chamber music for a few seconds to take care of business. Okay, well, first off, before we even get into this discussion, I mean, this is an adult discussion on this podcast. I just want to throw, of course, if, parents, they can make any kind of decisions they like. However, I just don't know if extraterrestrial reality, if this is something you want to be, letting your kids listen to. This is more advanced theory about alien visitors. I don't see, what good, if you're a little kid sitting in the back seat of a car on the way to grandma's house, and your parents are in the front seat, and they throw this on. Hey, listen to this, Johnny and Susie. Listen to the nice man tell us about how there's creatures from other worlds coming here, drinking the blood of cows and maybe even drinking our blood. It looks like they might be taking over the world. They sneak into people's bedrooms at night and abduct them. And the government, meanwhile, is lying to everybody about it. Isn't that nice? Now just listen to the nice man. He'll tell you all about it. I just don't think that's a good thing to do, to a kid. Anyway, that's just me. Anyhow, I am going to make some allusions towards Santa Claus today and try to make some points about what's going on here. And one of those things is, now we're going to start off with what's been going on this week. Of course, some of you know that NASA has launched its investigation into UFOs. And here's an article that was published on October 24th, yesterday, and this was in Smithsonian Magazine. I'll leave the link. There's a lot of articles, actually. This is just one of many, many articles. I was looking through a bunch of them today and yesterday. And anyway, here's what this article says. A team of NASA researchers has just begun a formal investigation into UFOs, now referred to as unidentified aerial phenomena. Last week, the agency announced the 16 team members leading the study, which began Monday and will last for 9 months. They will report their findings to the public in mid-2023, according to a statement from NASA. The team includes former NASA astronaut Scott Kelly and science journalist Nadia Drake, as well as scientists who study the shape of the universe, astrobiology, oceanography, black holes, computer engineering, and other topics. The effort is meant to lay the groundwork for future study on the nature of UAP for NASA and other organizations, according to the statement. The team will identify how data gathered by civilian government entities, commercial data, and data from other sources can potentially be analyzed to shed light on UAP. The supernatural sounding study, well, let's just stop there for a minute. Supernatural sounding study. What's so supernatural about, it's nothing supernatural. This ain't about ghosts and goblins, right? Anyway, continuing. The supernatural sounding study, first announced in June, is really meant to bring a scientific perspective to the subject and document unidentified objects in the sky, per a June statement from NASA. It will reportedly cost less than $100,000 and be independent from the Pentagon's effort to study UAP, wrote the Washington Post's Christian Davenport last summer. Following a 2021 report from the United States government centered on 144 unidentified flying objects, there has been considerable federal attention on these phenomena. Congress held a public hearing on UAP in May, and the Pentagon announced it was forming an office to study UAP in July, according to NPR's Julia Hayward. But most UAP research to date has been conducted by military and intelligence organizations. They take a different approach to the topic, which is, we're not interested in this as a scientific issue. That's not on our agenda, Pennsylvania State University historian Greg Edgian told Scientific American's Sarah Scholes in August. Developing an understanding of UAP isn't just about looking for alien life. The flying objects could have implications for national security, and NASA hopes the findings will improve aircraft safety. Collecting data on UAP might be a first step in mitigating them to protect air traffic per the agency. Now, let's just stop here for a minute. It says here, developing an understanding of UAP isn't just about looking for alien life. The flying objects could have implications for national security. Okay, then see that they seg into to this, which makes it sound like, oh well, it could have national security implications. Like basically, well, it could be from China or Russia. Like as if it's alien life. Well, that's not really national security. That's what it makes it sound like to me, anyway. Anyway, continuing. Collecting data on UAP might be a first step in mitigating them to better protect air traffic per the agency. I don't know what do you do? I mean, really, if they're from outer space, how are you going to control? Are you going to contact the aliens somewhere? On your on a CB radio, maybe? I don't know. What are you going to do? Tell them to knock it off? I mean, how do you communicate with these things? Anyway. So far, NASA doesn't have a hypothesis for what UAP may be. I would say the only preconceived notion I have coming into this is that you should be open to the idea that we're looking at several different phenomena. David Spergel, who will lead the research effort and is the president of the Simons Foundation, said in the summer per the Post. This is a phenomenon we don't understand, and we want to collect more data. For now, though, there is no evidence UAP or extraterrestrial in origin, NASA said in a June statement. But even if the study reveals nothing about alien life, it might still learn something new about Earth's atmosphere, wrote Scientific American. These objects aren't created by Earth's atmosphere. They're solid objects, obviously, they're controlled by some intelligence that's has access to craft that could outdo anything that we have in our possession. So I don't know what they're talking about there, but that's besides the point. This whole study is besides the point. Okay, we have a whole bunch of studies going on. Just last week, I did a podcast about how there's this this other group of scientists are just starting a new aeronautics group, right? This the biggest aeronautics organization in the United States has decided to study UAP because they figured they deemed that they're dangerous. They pose a danger to aircraft. Okay, so they're studying it. You have these other, you have the Harvard study, the Galileo Project. You have UAPX, right? You have the Pentagon itself with its own UAP office, which is supposed to be looking into this. Actually, this week we have a report coming out. Supposedly, actually, it's due on October 31st. And there was an article that was written last month in the Debrief, and I'm going to go through that article here. And basically, the person who wrote this, Bryce Zabel, believes that there's a possibility that this will be this report, if it comes out like by October 31st, like it's supposed to, could be the October surprise leading into the 2022 midterm election in early November. Now, I don't believe that. I'll just say that right up front. I don't think that there's going to be anything in that report. I mean, even if we get to see it, I mean, I don't know if we're even going to get to see it. A report is supposedly due to Congress by October 31st. And I'm going to go through some of this article here. And let's see here. Well, basically, this was from the National Defense Authorization Act that was passed last year for 2022. For this year, and in that law, there's supposedly they're supposed to provide the Pentagon is basically supposed to provide a report to Congress by October 31st. This person here in this article contends that maybe this is going to be a big eye opener and possibly will be disclosure. I don't believe that, but we're going to read some of this. Now, this is a pretty long article. I'll leave the link for it. I'm just going to catch it up here. I'm going to start reading here in the middle. It says, the next momentous congressionally mandated UAP report is due on Halloween this year, October 31st, 2022. It could happen before, but the even money has to be on exactly that date based on the ODNI's previous behavior. No matter who is writing this one on UAP reports to come, they will tend to take all the time they can get, like a sophomore cramming for a midterm. This year's midterm elections are of huge importance since all members of the House of Representatives are up for election and 1/3 of the members of the Senate, plus a majority of the nation's governors. Given the tie in the Senate between Democrats and Republicans and the razor-thin edge for the Democrats in the House, it's fair to say that, in some respects, the fate of the nation hangs in the balance that day. The news is full of motivating stories to get voters to the polls. Election day in the United States is statutorily set by the federal government as the Tuesday next after the first Monday in the month of October, equaling the Tuesday occurring within the dates of November 2nd to November 8th. Our next midterm election will be held on Tuesday, November 8th. I've gotten my trusty calendar out and done my own hand count. The math is simple and compelling. The next National UAP report, produced by the Department of Defense and the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, will likely come out exactly 8 days before the midterm elections. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I submit to you that if there's going to be an October surprise that affects the 22 election, this could be it. With the public battered by everything from the raid on Mar-a-Lago to the repeal of Roe, plus coronavirus, droughts, floods, fires, inflation, a ruptured supply chain, January 6th, and God knows what else, you might argue that adding UAP to the menu is just a bit much. That might be true, but one party's outrage might be another's Hail Mary. It is true that the June 25th report, released on a Friday afternoon, got some weekend coverage, but was off the news radar by Monday. Still, it would be misleading to say that the public news angle was the only impact it had. The reality is that the report, particularly that classified version that none of us average citizens got to see, really shook up a lot of people in Congress. It's what got Gillibrand to write up her amendment. It got others like Marco Rubio and Mitt Romney to start talking about all this in public language that held open the possibility that they may not be well of this earth. It got the same response from NASA's new administrator, Bill Nelson, even Avril Haines, whose office put it out while talking more openly in the aftermath. Plus, last year saw former CIA chiefs taking to the airwaves and talking about what a vast universe we live in, one where anything is possible. So, already the world of October 31st, 2022 is further along on this subject than the world of June 25th, 2021. That's how fast these things are moving these days. The point is that the next report will have to build on what came before it. It will also be written at a time when the authors know damn well that if they try to obfuscate and dissemble, that there will be pushback from Capitol Hill. Remember that Senators Gillibrand, Rubio, and Romney, just for starters, have all run for president before. Gillibrand and Rubio in particular are as ambitious today as they ever were. Clearly, they do not think that talking about UAP or introducing legislation is going to derail those ambitions. They will be standing before the cameras at CNN and Fox and everyone else faster than you can say tic-tac. The body politic may be both shaken and stirred and most definitely spilled all over our nice party clothes by the next report. This time, depending on what it says and how it says it, cable news could blow up with scientists, celebrity abductees, whistleblowers, witnesses, pilots, and God knows who else, all trying to expand on what the report has suggested and to pitch their expertise to talk about whether it is true and what is being done about it. A few things are certain. Those final days on the campaign are going to be run at a fever pitch. Town meetings in person or on Zoom are going to be happening by the thousands across America. At least a few voters are going to get through the screeners used by candidates and networks to prevent real questions from sneaking in and ask their elected representatives and the wannabes who covered their jobs to go on the record. Political dynamics being what they are, one party is apt to be in a better position than the other, providing incentive for the one that's down to try to shatter that narrative. The dynamic of UAP reality and its ability to shake everything up will appeal to somebody. Okay, I'm not going to read the rest of this, but this guy basically suggests that it's very possible that UAP could become a big thing right before these elections. Basically, that this report could be released to the public before the election happens, and it could be a big giant eye opener. I think it's going to be more like what happened last May in that report when the Pentagon officials met with the Intelligence Committee. I don't think that Senate Intelligence Committee. I don't think there's going to be anything that comes out of this. I think it's just going to be more dog and pony show stuff. We don't know. It's weird. Maybe this could be. It could be. Could be China, Russia. Who knows? That kind of nonsense. I think we're on. That's the kind of road we're on with all these different studies finally signed, which is good, right? I like I always said before. I'm glad about all these studies. But I get the feeling that what's really happening here, there's something else that's happening here behind the scenes, and the purpose of this. And what it reminds me of is the way, adults treat their kids growing up, with regard to things like Santa Claus. Now, when I was a kid growing up, you realize that later, not at the time, but you realize later that your parents lie to you all the time. Like I remember when I was about 2.5, 3. That's basically when I realized I was a person. That was like when I finally became conscious to the world that I was alive. You like there's those first couple of years you really don't even know what's going on, but then at some point, like, oh, boy, I'm here. Wow, huh. And I was pretty young. I must have been 2.5, 3 years old when all of this, when the realization that I'm a living, breathing being, finally occurred to me. And it's I'm sure it's like that for everybody. But, I remember there was a big old wooden toy box that was kept in my bedroom, and it was locked. It was never opened. It was a toy box. I was told this is a toy box, but it's locked. It was my mom's old toys from when she was a kid. I guess hers and her brothers and, all these different toys were kept in this old toy box. And I wanted to see what it looked like, of course. It was a bunch of toys from the 50s when these, my mom and my aunts and uncles were kids. I wanted to see it. She told me it was locked and they lost the key. I believed it. Years went on. I didn't care then. It's locked. It was just a big mystery. And then one day, as I grew up, at some point, it was like, well, no, I had the key all along. I just, we just lied to you. I didn't want to open it up. They're all old toys. We'd give you new ones. We just didn't want you to, mess them all up. So basically, I bought the excuse, hook, line, and sinker when I was a kid. And life went on. And then I found out, it was a big lie, And then they opened up the toy box. I mean, there was really nothing. It was just a bunch of old junky toys, But, my curiosity wasn't satisfied when I was a young child. When I wanted to see it initially, they lied to me, and life went on. And then there was another occasion. I must have been about 3.5, 4, around that range. Right? I remember being in the kitchen and noticing in the one cupboard that there were some freeze pops. The freeze pops, you throw them in the freezer, they freeze up, and you open it up, you cut the top off, and you push out the flavored ice water. Okay, and I saw them there. I requested them. I requested my mom, hey, I want those freeze pops, right? Could you put them in the freezer, please? She said they weren't there, and so I went on for quite a number of years thinking I must have been seeing things then. Because she said they're not there. I believe her. She's the authority around here right now, and she's telling me, oh no, there's no freeze pops. You must have, no, you made a mistake. So life went on, and then about 5, we moved out of that house around that time when I was 4 going on 5. And about 5 years later, that house was going to get torn down, and so we had to go up there and remove all the old stuff from this house. And out of curiosity, I opened up that cupboard, and guess what was in it? The freeze pops. They were still there. In fact, they weren't there in a way, though, because they had dehydrated completely. All that was left was long tubes of plastic filled with air. The liquid was gone. So, and then when you're a child, authority figures tell you something, you just naturally believe them, and then life goes on. And that's the same way it is with UFOs and the government and what's been going on here. And I think what they're setting us up for is basically what's happening here. You're seeing these different groups, NASA and all that, right? You have this aeronautics group, you have the Galileo project, all looking at some point, right? There's going to be, oh yeah, guess what? Yeah, we think it's extraterrestrial now, right? Like they just discovered it. But really, what's happening? This is the same thing as like with Santa Claus. Like in Christmas morning, a lot of people celebrate Christmas. Growing up, and when you're a kid, you wake up the next morning, right? And there's a whole bunch of presents under the Christmas tree, and you can't believe it. You're all excited. You're going down. There's Lincoln Logs, there's Rock'em Sock'em robots, there's a robot that walks around, and stops and shoots out lasers, right? You're all excited about it. You can't believe you got all these things. And what else is going on is that your parents are sitting behind you like they're surprised about it too. They can't believe what you got too. Like they can't believe that Santa Claus knew what you wanted, and you believed them. Everyone's all excited together, right? Of course, as years go on, you hit 9, 10, whatever age when you start realizing, wait a minute, Santa Claus isn't real. And then you realize that this has been a big farce put on by your parents the whole time. Not that it's a bad thing or anything. I'm not saying that, but I'm just using this as an example of what's happening now with UFOs. So basically, that's what's happening with UFOs. It's the same kind of Santa Claus setup. You know, what's going to happen at some point? We're all going to be like, wow, so these things really are from outer space. The general public, you know, as a whole, basically. Now, some of us are going to know that this is all nonsense, but a lot of them aren't going to know. A lot of people out there are going to be dumb to this. They're going to be like the little kid under the Christmas tree, thinking that, and the parents behind them are like winking at each other. You know, hey, they fell for it. They think Santa Claus really did bring these presents. You know. But in this case, it's going to be, hey, they fell for it. They think we really just did discover that it's extraterrestrial, even though we knew about it since 47. But hey, they're dumb. We're smart. We're an authority. People listen to authority all the time. You know, so that's basically what's going on here when you really think about it. Right, we're being treated like children over this. We've been. I mean, actually, this has been going on for a long time now. Since the 50s. I mean, retired Marine Major Donald Kehoe, who basically was the first big-time ufologist, someone who had connections to the Pentagon, wrote a number of different books from the 50s into the 70s about UFOs. You know, he actually went on TV and said that. He said, basically, the Air Force is treating us by like a bunch of children, like we can't handle the truth. And that's what's been going on all this time. So what's going on here now, all of a sudden, like over the last 5 years, what we're seeing is now they're recognizing all of a sudden after years and years of saying there's nothing to it, we looked into this before, there's no such thing as extraterrestrials, nothing coming here from outer space, I don't know what anybody's talking about, we looked into it, nothing to it, we closed Project Blue Book, you had this scientific study, the Condon Report, 1968, come out, hey, there's nothing to it, let's move on with our lives. But the problem was for them is that the UFOs never went away. And it just kept on coming and coming and coming. And it got even more mysterious with abductions increasing throughout the 70s and 80s, reports of that going on. So now we've reached this point where we have all this technology at our disposal. Everyone has a cell phone. Everyone's walking around. You know, I have a cell phone that could film stuff in 8K. So if I see a UFO flying around, I'm going to get a pretty good video of that thing, most likely, if I have the time. And just so is everyone else. Because everyone's cell phone pretty much is technologically advanced from anything that we used to have like 15 years ago. So now what's going on here is the trick is to make it seem like the government never knew about this stuff before. Right? That's what it seems like to me. Now, I know there's a contingent in the Congress that's trying to get the records from 1947, they're going to pass this, you know, it's in for the 2023 National Defense Authorization Act. There's language in there that will protect whistleblowers, right? But there's a battle going on. There's a battle going on how they're going to present this, right? And I think what's going on is that they think that they're going to try to pull this Santa Claus trick on us. Basically, they're going to act like, oh, well, we didn't know. We told you in 2017, we admitted, yeah, there's something out there. We didn't really know much before that in the years leading up to that, you know. Just started since, you know, around 2004, you know, with the David Fravor incident. There was a few incidents before that. But all that stuff in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, we really didn't find anything there. I mean, we don't have any alien bodies on ice. Nothing crashed at Roswell. I mean, seriously. I mean, that's the kind of nonsense that's going on here. But reality is they're trying to make it look like we all discovered it together. That's what's going on here. And again, we're going to be the little kids behind the Christmas tree at some point, whether it's, you know, maybe it's October 31st, maybe it's 10 years from now. I don't know when it's going to happen, right? But at some point, we're all going to be little kids under the Christmas tree, right? And we're going to be opening up the reality of the extraterrestrial presence here, because scientists that are studying this now with all these open studies, you know, UAPX, Galileo Project, NASA, you know, the Pentagon, all these studies going on, right? Something's gonna finally give on that, and they're gonna say, yeah, somebody's gonna determine that it's extraterrestrial, but it's like we're just all finding out. The world's just finding this out now. We never knew it before in the past. Right now, of course, there's going to be some other kids standing there under the Christmas tree that are going to be like the 10 to 11 year old, 9, 10, 11, who don't believe in this anymore. Like they're the kids who grew out of this whole Santa Claus myth. They're going to be standing there. They're going to know. They're going to be looking at the parents while the parents are sitting there winking at each other, right? Knowing that they're lying, that they're trying to pass on this stinker to the general public as a whole, because that's where we're heading, folks. That's what this could be. Now, I could be wrong. Of course, I always say that everything I talk about here is pure speculation. It's all what I think might be possible. Okay, doesn't make me right at all, but that's what it seems like to me. I think we're being buffaloed. I think we're being set up to be buffaloed. We're being set up just like these other lies you're told when you're a kid. They're treating us like children. That's what's happening. This is like the whole Santa Claus deal. Hey, yeah. I can't believe it. We have these scientific organizations finally determined that they're extraterrestrials, and you have generals in the Pentagon, some representatives in Majestic 12 standing behind you. Yeah, we never knew that before. Wink, wink. That's where we're heading. It's a big trick. We're being treated like young kids. That's what's going on here. It's very, makes me mad. That's why I say, rip the Band-Aid off instead of playing these games. What do you have to wait till October 31st for? I'll tell you what. If NASA wanted to get to the bottom of this, right? If they wanted to get to the bottom of this, they wouldn't be looking at unclassified pictures. They'd be demanding going to the Pentagon and say, look, we know you're hiding something. We're not stupid. We did our research. If the people in NASA wanted to really look into this, we know what's going on. We know you're lying. We know that something happened at Roswell. There's just too much evidence. You've been lying for all these years. Just come on out with it already instead of this nonsense. It's playing these games with the public, with us, basically making us make fools out of ourselves. Bend over backwards to make it look like we're just finding out about it now. Boy, it makes you mad when you really think about it, that you're being treated like a little kid. Because that's what's going on here. There are people that are kept out of the loop that know better, because I know better. And there's other people. A lot of people listen to my podcast know better. There's something going on here. And it's been going on, and it's been covered up for decades, and we have all these things going on and studies, right? But again, it's a trick. It's a trick. There should be no reason for the studies. If the studies have already been done in private, right? There's had to be. There's no question about it. There's been a lot of things that have gone on behind the scenes that have been completely kept out of the view of the public. They need to bring that stuff up. They need to bring that stuff forward. Not this game. Let's take a few years and we'll look at these pictures from afar. And again, I've talked about this just recently too. It's more than just the objects. There's a lot more. There's a lot of other different aspects to this whole phenomenon. I mean, the abductions, the cattle mutilations, right? There's all different aspects to this. There's people that get implants. There was actually people, like Dr. Roger Lear, the late Roger Lear, took out multiple implants from different people who were abducted by aliens. And the implants were beyond any kind of technology that we're aware of. We don't even know how they operate, but there's objects in them, in these people. All of this needs to be studied. But again, we're going to be treated like little kids. That's how this looks like. That's how this is to me right now. When I look at this, that's what I feel. I feel like we're being set up to be tricked, basically, by the authorities in our lives, by the people in high positions. Because otherwise, most people out there will, hey, the government just said, the government said, okay, then it must be true then. Then we all move on with life and everything, But some of us know the government's lying about this. When it comes to this, anyhow, there's no question. This has been covered up by not just the United States, all governments all across the world.